Hey guys, welcome back. I wanted to catch you guys up on something and share something kind of, that I just felt had to be shared. This was, I've never really dealt with something quite like losing my mother. I've lost some close friends and some relatives in the past, but I think a mother holds a special place in everyone's heart. And, outside of losing a child of your own, I think losing a mother or father has got to be one of the hardest things we deal with in our lives. And these past few years, my mother has been fighting this battle where she was diagnosed about 4 years ago with stage 4 cancer. And if you knew the backstory, she was supposed to have 3 months. When they first found it, it was this grapefruit-sized mass. It had spread, and she was given a few months with treatment. There was not really anything. It was basically telling her, go home and plan your funeral. And when she gave us the news, I think a lot of people were just kind of, oh my gosh, this is the end. And my brother and myself and our reaction was, God's going to heal you. God's going to fix this for us. We knew that God had this love for her and this power to heal. And that was where we just automatically, that was our thoughts, was this isn't the end. And I had this spiritual anger that people were trying to push that on us and profess that and accept that. And from the very beginning, we started seeing God's hand move, because there was this, we were really drawn back into this prayer of praying continuously and believing and just kind of staying close with our mom. And what happened was incredible. She was within a few months, she was in remission, so, and all this chemo that the doctors were giving her, I remember just praying, God, it was like this double prayer, because, I was wanting to just say, Mom, just let God heal you. But you have these doctors who are saying, you have to do this chemo. If you don't do this chemo, and then, then there's this whole idea of what if God can heal me through these doctors? What if he can use these doctors to heal me? And so we were kind of fighting two battles. We're praying, God, heal our mother of this terrible disease that has spread throughout her body. And we have this other side of us that's going, they're about to pump her full of absolute toxic poisons. This stuff wreaks havoc. And if you've been around chemo, it's a terrible thing. And so we were praying just fervently, God, protect her from this poison they're going to put in her, heal her. And it was just this double, two-sided prayer where we're just like praying kind of two ways. And I can remember initially the doctors were like, how is this chemo not doing what it does to everyone else? She's not going to the bathroom all the time. She's not losing her hair. She's not dropping all this weight. And it was totally it was so different than everyone in the treatment room, because they have these people lined up in a room, chair after chair on different sides of this room, and they're all getting hooked into these chemo pumps that's just pumping it into you. And you take this pump home, and it's throughout the week pumping this stuff into your body. And she just looked amazing. And it was one of those things, if you didn't know what God was doing, you couldn't explain it. There was no medical explanation for it. And within a matter of months, her being in remission was just absolutely, I think it was something that baffled the doctors. And here she is a year later, 2 years later, and she's still working through this. And it was just a powerful witness to what God could do. But I think in time, they would keep telling her, you need to stay on this treatment. And she was kind of like, well, I'm going to get off of it, and they kept putting that voice in her head that you need to stay on this, you need to do this. And so she'd kind of listen to the doctors. And in time, they said, well, it's come back. There's a spot, and we need to start treating it with this heavy stuff again. And they would start hitting her with this heavy treatments. And in time, it wore on her, and it became, and I think, you kind of wonder what kills these people sometimes. Is it the chemo or is it the cancer? But she fought through this for years, and and in this past year especially, things started to take a turn for the worse. And we were always hopeful, because God kept bringing her out of these impossible situations, and she kept thriving, and we had all these wonderful times with her throughout all this. And but near the end, and in the last, I'd say 3 to 4 months, something just shifted, and she was hardly able to eat, and she started becoming just more and more in pain. She was having I'd have to rush to the ER to figure out, what was wrong. She'd have a blockage in her kidney, and we'd have to have this emergency procedure, and things were just getting worse and worse. And the pain was unbearable. And then it come to find out the cancer had just spread all over her bones, and it was in every part of the body. They could just about find it. And we were just watching her shrink away and suffer and suffer and suffer and go through this extreme pain. And the hardest thing for me was knowing that she really and she believed that God wanted this for her in a way. Not that God was just so excited to give her cancer, but she felt like she never did what she was supposed to do with God. She lived this unfruitful life, and she was just kind of getting what came to her. And I tried so hard to show her that you're worthy of God's healing. God wants you to be healed. God, and she felt like she had things she had done in her past that she couldn't be forgiven for, for whatever reason. And near the end of her life, we were, in the last few weeks, we were always trying to spend as much time with her as we could. And the last week especially, it was like any day could be her last day, any day. And we didn't know which day that was. So a lot of us were there most of the time kind of with her. And one day in particular, and this is what I wanted to share with you guys, 3 days before she passed away, we're all in the bed with, like beside her bed. We had her at home. Luckily, during this whole shutdown, we were able to stay with her. But we had, my brother was there, my two sisters, my uncle, my stepdad, were all there with her, and we're surrounding her, and we're holding on to her, and people are crying, and we're praying with her. And she was in a lot of pain at this time, and it really seemed like, in that moment, that she's going to go any time now. So I'm just praying for God to comfort her, and I can't, I felt like my prayer was kind of in a confused state, because she was saying, I'm going to die. Stop praying for me to be healed. This is it for me, and she was. So I kind of said, well, I know God, and when you see somebody suffering that bad, you just want them to end the suffering. But I couldn't say, God, take her, because death is God's enemy. He only gives life. He only gives healing. He doesn't deal with that. So it was a difficult place for me to be, watching her suffer and wanting her suffering to stop. So I'm just praying, and out of desperation, I'm thinking, what do I pray for? And I just said, God, send her your angels to comfort her right now. Just send her your angels. Give her something she can see to give her comfort. And as I'm praying this prayer, I'm praying inwardly. I'm not praying this out loud. So what happened next really kind of caught me by it was just this amazing moment of God showing up and delivering and giving somebody comfort in a time of extreme need. And it was as soon as I'm uttering this prayer and inwardly, I look at my mom, and she's looking up. She starts looking up, and she says, "They're here. My angels are here. I can see them." And she's just amazed, she goes from being in this extreme pain to just, my angels are here, and they're beautiful. And my sisters and people are like, what? Describe them. What do they look like? And she's just saying, they're so colorful. They're so beautiful. And to me, that was so reassuring. And it also made me think that, she's seeing these angels. This is her last moments. But they weren't. And that's what kind of caught me about this was, before people die, you can say, well, they see things before they die. But she didn't die that day. She didn't die within the hour. She survived another day. And then she survived another day. It was 3 days later. And she'd had this encounter with these angels. And I thought, wow, that really had to be something God sent. And I don't think, some people are like, oh, it's a coincidence. I don't, spiritually speaking, when it's not a coincidence, when God is doing something. And, it came to the last hour of her life, and the doctors came in and they said, she's got a few hours max. And we're praying for her at the bedside, and we're all in there with her. And within an hour, before she passes away, because she was scared to pass away. She didn't want to go to sleep. She didn't know what was going to happen. And you would hope that she'd be at peace. And you always think, if somebody's going to pass away, hopefully they're at peace, so that you witness that they're like, I'm ready to go and I'm at peace. But for a long time, she was not ready, and she wanted to be with her kids, and That's something every mom kind of wants. She didn't want to leave us. And it's something that she kept saying. But she, right before she passed away, she said, I'm ready to go. And she said, go get my angels and tell them that I'm ready. And this time I'm ready to go. And I didn't know how to react to that. I didn't know what she really wanted me to do. So I started kind of praying again, just, God, send your angels right now to send her comfort again. And she looks at me because I'm still sitting beside her, and she says, what are you doing? Stop just standing there. And she actually said, quit being lazy. She said, go get my angels and tell them that I'm ready. So I had to get up and physically leave the room, because if you know how my mom is, when she's wanting you to do something, you need to at least pretend you're doing it if you're not going to do it. So we went in there, and I went to a different room, and I'm praying, God, send your angels. We're kind of going out, me and my brother, we're praying for this. And we come back, and she starts looking around again, and she says, they're back, they're here. She said, okay, I'm ready. She said, y'all can leave and give me some privacy. I'm ready to go. And of course, we didn't want to leave her at this moment, so we all kind of just stuck around. But I thought it was just incredible that God, in His love, would send His angels, with all that's going on, to comfort my mother as she was living out these last moments. And when she passed away, it was just a peaceful moment. And as hard as it is to lose her, I think the hardest thing that you could ever imagine is seeing somebody you love just suffer for, hour after hour, every second, not really getting any relief. So as hard as it was to lose her, I think it was just such a weight was lifted of she's not suffering anymore. And that's I think the greatest comfort I have in this whole thing. And it was just, to me, I thought that was something I had to share, because God really is moving things in the spiritual world. And I think what my mother saw for me was a huge witness to what's really happening out there. The idea that these angels, God's messengers, are really out there on our behalf, and they're here to serve the greater good. They're here fighting this invisible spiritual warfare. And in these last days, things are really ramping up. So we need to be vigilant in our prayers and coming together, because you never know when something like this is going to happen, when a diagnosis like this is going to happen. And you have to be strong in your faith, because I'm telling you, there are times when your faith is going to be shaken because you're watching somebody suffer, and you're just like, why? How is it that this could happen? With God is all good, and we have to understand that we live in a world where sin has brought about death, and not everyone that we pray for to be healed is going to be healed. There's going to be stumbling blocks and roadblocks, whether it's they have this doubt in their heart, or they believe that this is God's will in some way. So we have to learn how to handle these situations and what to pray for. We can never pray that God's going to bring death to someone. He won't do that. But we can ask for God to send us comfort and send us peace and send us joy, because these are all things that He has for us. Hope you guys are having a blessed week. Thanks for dropping by. God bless.